Hey kids, I am going to read you a story that is a story for me because when I was in first grade, I remember my mom reading me this story, Good Neighbors by Dan Redfield Massey. And I remember all the pictures so clearly, and it was pre-literate. It was like when I still couldn't read, so it was really important for me to hear those stories. And then I could never find this book. I didn't remember what it was called. I saw so many books. I used to work in bookstores, and I saw thousands and thousands of kids' books. And sometimes I'd see books. I'd be like, "Oh, I remember that book from a little when I was little," and I get it. But I never saw this one until I did once. And I think I found this at Bookman's, and it's amazing to me. So I'm so excited, and I'm going to share it with you. Good Neighbors. She must be the illustrator too. Mouse was a pocket mouse, and he lived in a cozy little room underground. "I love my house," said Mouse. "Home sweet home." He does have a cozy little house. He ran up out of his tunnel. Maybe I can, no, I think I'll read it like that. He ran up his tunnel and out into the moonlight, and the desert was silver and still. "Ouch!" said a voice behind him. "Oh, ouch again!" The cactus flowers shook on the cactus plant. "I'm getting it! Ouch!" "Who's there?" whispered Mouse. He stood near his tunnel, ready to run. "I've got it!" said the voice. "Oh, my poor paws!" And a large flower fell down and rolled over. "Oh," said Pack Rat, coming out. He was wringing his paws and crying. There's Mouse standing by that beautiful flowering cactus, and he's like, "Who's there?" And there comes Pack Rat with his flower, and he's crying. "What's the matter?" asked Mouse. "I've got prickers," said the Pack Rat. He collected some cactus leaves, and he dragged them over the sand. "What are you doing?" asked Mouse, picking up the flower. "I'm fixing up my doorway," said the Pack Rat, flinging his cactus into a heap very near Mouse's side of the yard. "Call me Ratty. We're neighbors." "We are?" said Mouse. "I just moved in," said Ratty, "and this pile of junk is my front door." "Really?" said Mouse, moving nearer. "You can't see my door," said Ratty. "It's underneath there somewhere." "Well, how do you get in?" asked Mouse. "It's not easy." And there he is, throwing those cactus into a big pile, and Mouse is like, "What is going on?" And there he is, "See? That's my front of my house. It's awesome." But they really do that, and then predators can't find their door. It's a good idea, but I always wonder how they don't get poked. I think they must have thick skins. Mouse stared at the heap of sticks and cactus, and the rocks were sprinkled on top. It looked rather like the dump at the end of town. Mouse glanced at his own neat doorway, swept clean that morning, and his door knocker shone in the moonlight, and his door was cactus green. There's his beautiful little door house with his cactus green door, and there's the dump at the end of the town, his neighbor's house. "When I'm coming home with groceries," said Ratty, picking up a stone, "that's when there's trouble." And he threw the stone at his pile and smacked his paws. Things have a way of getting caught. You know how it is with prickers. Bags rip open, and then it's just a big mess. "Why do you cover up your doorway like that?" asked Mouse, sitting down on his step. "Camouflage," said Ratty. "If you throw a pile of junk in front of your house, nobody knows you live there." "You don't want anyone to know?" asked Mouse, smelling his flower. Ratty straightened a stick on top of his pile and stepped back. "Not bad. It's even worse looking than my other house. I had to move because of the badgers," said Ratty, poking his nose between the sticks and the cactus leaves. He pushed his way down and disappeared beneath. "Ouch," said Ratty, looking out again. "Would you like to come in for a spot of tea?" Well, said Mouse, staring at the cactus prickers, I think I'd better go home. It's my supper time, you see, and... Well, tomorrow then, said Ratty, waving his paw. See you tomorrow, neighbor. Oh, ouch! And then he disappeared again. They live in a beautiful part of the desert that's flowering right now. See you, neighbor. Mouse stood for a moment, staring at Ratty's heap at the end of his yard, and the moonlight shivered in the cactus. Let me try that one again. Mouse stood for a moment, staring at Ratty's heap at the end of his yard. The moonlight silvered the cactus and the stones, and even the sticks alike. But in the morning, said Mouse to himself, it will look just like the dump. And he went in and he shook his head, shutting the door behind him. Mouse was up early the next morning making his breakfast, and his tea kettle whistled softly. Thump, thump, thump. What is that? Said Mouse, dropping his cup. Rocks and dirt showered down on his sofa. He scrambled behind the stove. There he is, feeling a little depressed about knowing that it's going to look like the dump outside his house. And then there he is in the morning, making a cup of tea, and rocks came tumbling down. Anybody home? Ratty poked his head through a large hole in Mouse's wall. He pushed himself through and he hopped down onto the sofa. Bullseye, said Ratty. What luck! I was making my back room a little bit longer, and here it is. It's come right into your house. So it has, said Mouse, picking up his cup. The handle had broken off, which made him feel even crosser. Crosser, another word for getting angry or being mad. Ratty, he said, you have made a large hole in my wall. And so he has. Ratty's a pretty friendly looking guy though. But Mousy's looking a little grouchy. And there's his broken cup. Isn't that nice, said Ratty, sitting down at the breakfast table. Now we can really be good neighbors. If I need to borrow something, I can pop right in and out again. You can do the same thing, of course. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. What's mine is not yours, said Mouse crossly. This is my house, and I don't want a hole in my wall. But it's above the sofa, said Ratty, pouring himself a cup of tea. It's so handy. We can just jump down and go oof. We will not go oof on anything, said Mouse, and certainly not on my sofa. And he brushed the rock and dirt off his paws and stood up. The tunnel above ran back to a room where Ratty's lamp shone faintly. This is good tea, said Ratty. Have you got any biscuits? No, said Mouse, jumping down. I haven't. Do you have any jam? So there's Mouse getting angrier and angrier. And there's Mouse inspecting the hole in his living room and not feeling happy about it. No! Shouted Mouse, and he pounded his fist on the table, making the teacup jump. The tea ran down his tablecloth. My goodness, said Ratty, why are you so cross? And he stood up and stretched, and then he hopped to the sofa and from there to the hole above. See you later, he said. Have a little finishing to do here and there before lunch. There's Mouse saying no. There's Ratty saying, see ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Mouse watched him disappear up the tunnel, and then he hurried across the room to his cupboard, and he took down a large round picture hanging above it. Grandfather Pocket Mouse will have to cover the hole, said Mouse, until I can patch it up. And he climbed the sofa, and he hung the portrait over a root. There. Now who would know there's a hole at all? And he stepped back, and he fell off the couch. Drat that pack rat, said Mouse, flinging down a stone. Good neighbor, ha! And there he is, getting the picture. And now he's hung the picture and fallen off the couch. By lunchtime, Mouse had cleared away the stones and dirt from his room, and then he warmed his tea and ate some toast. And at last he settled down for the morning. and he took a nap. Knock, knock, knock. What? Said Mouse, rubbing his eyes. Who's there? Me again, said Ratty, pushing out from under the picture. I forgot to borrow some cheese. Cheese, said Mouse, and bread, said Ratty, for lunch. Lunch, said Mouse. Ratty jumped down on the sofa, and dust covered his head, and a cactus leaf hung from his ear. I totally remember that picture from when I was a little kid. I said to myself, said Ratty, why don't you run down and see your good neighbor Mouse, and perhaps you and he can have a bit to eat together, being such good neighbors and all. I've just eaten, said Mouse. Anything left? Said Ratty. Ratty, Mouse said sternly, I think there are some things that you should know. Being good neighbors doesn't mean you bother somebody else. Bother, said Ratty. You don't make holes in somebody's walls. You don't borrow cheese and bread and wake them up from their nap. Whose nap? Said Ratty. My nap, said Mouse. And you're not being a very good neighbor, and I'm getting very tired. Well, why don't you take a nap? Asked Ratty. I'm trying to, shouted Mouse. I think I'll go home, said Ratty. He looked as if he might cry. Goodbye, said Mouse. Ratty climbed through the hole above the sofa, and the picture swung back and forth behind him. And I hope, said Mouse, pulling up his covers, that is that. And he did sleep peacefully the rest of the day. Look at little dejected Ratty and little Mousy giving it to him, shouting at him. And there's Ratty departing, and Mousy getting the hay. Kind of weird having to show you the book that way. By late afternoon, the sun had gone down and the desert above had grown cooler. Mouse made his way up his tunnel and ran into the moonlight, and he gathered some seeds under a bush, and he found some cactus apples. Delicious, said Mouse, biting between the prickers. What a lovely night. I wonder where everyone is. Watch out, said a tiny moth. The badger's out looking for his supper. The badger, said Mouse. Who's he? The badger's very large, and he likes to eat mice and rats, said the moth. Pocket mice, said Mouse, dropping his seeds. Especially pocket mice, said the moth, shedding his wings. I think I'll go home, said the mouse. I think I will go right away. And he ran quickly over the sand, forgetting his apples and his seeds. There he is, chowing down what do you call the desert apple. And there's that little moth telling him, dude, get out of there. There's my house, said Mouse. Thank heavens. The creosote bush rustled, and something large was behind them. It's the badger, said the mouse, jumping into the air. It's the badger for sure. And he leapt for his door and shut it behind him. The badger crept out into the moonlight, and he stood there before Mouse's green door. There's Mouse running for his door. There's Mr. Badger, looking at his door. Oh, help, 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 cried Mouse, running about his room. I forgot to lock the door. And he hid under the sofa. Thump, 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 the badger knocked at his door. Help, said the mouse, who'll open it? Oh, help, Ratty, help me. Ratty looked out from under the picture. Give me your paw, he said. Mouse reached up, and Ratty pulled, and up he went, under the picture into the hole, and just in time. So there's Badger scratching at his door, and Mouse running around all scaredy. And there's Ratty helping him up, just in time. Just in time, the badger's paw reached down and felt about the room. His claws tapped the sofa, the table, and the chairs, and then he picked up the hot stove. Ouch, said the badger, dropping the stove. Something's hot in there. And he licked his paw and shook his fur and shuffled off across the sand. Mouse lay exhausted in Ratty's chair. "I made some tea," said Ratty. He poured Mouse a cup and sat down in his rocker beside the table. "Ratty," said Mouse. "Don't try to talk," said Ratty. "You've had quite a fright. Go ahead and drink your tea and rest a bit. Would you like a cracker?" "Ratty," said Mouse, "you saved me." "Think nothing of it," said Ratty, taking out his cracker box. "Tomorrow we'll fix up your room. And I was thinking," said Ratty, pouring himself some tea, "that you're quite right about that hole in your wall. I'll help you patch it up." "Oh, no," said Mouse, dropping his cracker. "I like that hole in my wall. It's so handy for popping in and out. We can even go oomph on my sofa." "We can," said Ratty. "But you said—" "Never mind what I said Mouse. "And I don't care if your front door does look like the dump. It's so badgers won't know that I live there." "It's a very good idea," said Mouse, and he settled back in Ratty's chair and he sipped his cup of tea. "Just a minute," he said, jumping up again, and he ran down the tunnel to his room and he disappeared. In a moment he was back, swinging a bag behind him. "I brought some cheese." "Hooray!" said Ratty, clapping his paws. "We'll have a supper party. We'll celebrate being good neighbors," said the Mouse. "Really good neighbors, I mean." "Hooray for good neighbors!" cried Ratty, hopping over his chair. He spread out his crackers and smiled at Mouse. "Pass the cheese, please." Snip, snap, snout. That story is told out. There they are, the best of buds. Yep, I remember that story from when I was very little. I'm glad I have it. I've spent all day outside blacksmithing today. My body is a little vibrating from that. It's hard hammering for hours and then coming in and reading a story. Hey, I have a couple more math problems for you. Let me see if this will work. Some of these are really easy, I think. Maybe. Avery sold 6 sandwiches a day for a week. How many did she sell for the week? So that could be a repeated addition or a multiplication if you know your sixes. Or how many days are in a week if you know that number too. Deegan, Remy, and Nate went to a restaurant. Anne had lunch. They each spent $8. What was their total bill? Another repeated addition or multiplication if you know it. And then here's another one of those mystery warm-ups. 19 plus B plus 13 minus 18 equals 29. B equals what? We don't know, but we will find out. I'll post those answers tomorrow. And I hope you're well. Talk to you soon. Bye.